Hey, everybody, welcome back to Ava and I's podcast. Today we have a very special guest. We have JC number 566. JC, say hey.
Hey guys, 566.
All right, so we've got a lot to talk about. The reunion just dropped, so let's get straight into this.
Not you with is that
So first
why,
I want to
JC?
point.
Wait, I'm so sorry.
Wait, that's so
Yeah,
awesome.
I've got my signature line. These things make me nervous, so this kind of takes the
Oh my
edge off
goodness.
a little bit for me. But yes, this is my line. It's 5 o'clock somewhere, right?
That's so funny.
Yeah.
Sorry, Ivy. I
No,
cut you off.
no, you're so good. I'm glad you brought that up. I was just gonna say shout out to JC because we met in Vegas
Vegas.
briefly, and then we reconnected right before we started filming season 1 in
Yeah,
our Delta hotel.
Delta. Woo woo. Yeah, we go back, Ivy, and then
We
Ava. I
do.
think if memory serves me right, Ava, I think we connected and met on the bus ride to the ferry. At
Yeah.
least that's what I remember
Okay.
before we went out to Panama.
Yeah, I think you're right because I remember I don't know what hotel it was in, but it was like my first conversation with you and you gave me like relationship advice. And then yeah, that's when I first met you. So I didn't know you at all until after helicopters basically. And then
Yeah,
that's when I started
yeah,
to get to
basically.
know you. Yeah.
And look at us
I
now.
know.
Oh,
Look
So
now. Wow.
we have a lot to talk about. Obviously, episodes 1 through 6, I'd say, aren't really relevant anymore. So
mm,
much went down
there.
in episodes 7 through
Yeah,
10. So I say we just jump ahead to that and start with episode
yeah.
7. Ivy, do you have a specific question for 7 that you wanted to throw out? It's the trolley part,
Yeah.
right?
So what was your kind of mindset going into that challenge? Did you ever want to be a leader or were you planning to stay in the back? Like what were you thinking that whole time?
Yeah, good question. I was not trying to step up for leadership because I didn't know if there was going to be a twist or not, where like now you're the leader and you get screwed. So I just wanted to kind of play it by ear, let everybody else make these decisions. I felt like I was in a really good spot at that point because I was well liked, well received by all the players that were there. So I felt comfortable. To be honest, when Queen called me out, I was just like, what are you doing? Like, I like where I'm at. Just leave me here. I'm safe. But that was a strategic play on her behalf. I was her bait. There's no other way to slice or dice that. She knew that I had a really tight relationship with Tawana, and if there was any possibility that maybe she was leaning a different way, I was going to secure her spot in. So it was a smart move for her. But
Great.
yeah, there was no way I was going to be a leader. Even though Dino tried like several times, like, come on, JC, come on, JC. I was like, no, no, I'm sitting this one out.
Yeah, I wouldn't have
Right,
stepped up
right.
either, if I'm gonna be honest. Like,
Mm-mm.
it's just not worth the risk.
Yeah, and
Not at
and and
all.
in all honesty, the main reason was, and I carried this after Vegas. I said to myself, I don't want to have to eliminate someone. I didn't want to have that feeling and that guilt on my conscience. And I knew that being a leader would eventually you'd have to eliminate people. I mean, we saw what Akira had to go through. So I didn't want to have to be making those decisions because I was truly close to everybody that was there on the platform. So I was just like, no, not for me, not for me.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I do not blame you at all.
All right, so kind of moving into episode 8, this was the big moment, JC, obviously.
Yeah.
So, first question I have for you, this is the most prominent question that stays on my mind. If Michael would have taken his fair share of 100K, would
His
you
fair
still have
share.
taken more? Yeah.
That's a great question. I get asked that every single time. So just to preface what fair share means, right? In everybody's mind, the idea was there's $1 million, there's 10 of us, we split it evenly, $100,000 each, right? I just want to start off by saying that there was no agreement whatsoever. We never even had a chance to speak after they called us out and started explaining the rules. So nobody spoke to anybody and came to any agreement about what a fair share should be, right? So that was just the mentality of it. But to answer your question, Ava, if Michael would have taken $100,000, that would have left the bank at $800,000. I would have taken 750,
Really?
without a doubt. Yeah, I
Wow.
would have taken 750. And the reason why Michael didn't break the initial trust, it was broken by Patrick, Jeff, and Gage, the alliance that I was working with. That's where trust was originally broken. Michael just solidified it. By him coming in and taking a higher share, that's two strikes at that point. And I'm like, that's it. I've got to shift my mentality. I played a friendship game up until that point. It was about building relationships. And it wasn't until that moment where I was like, okay, this is a competition. I came into this competition to win money, right? For my family, to put ourselves in a better position. So after that, I was just like, that's it. I just changed my wiring and I said, I've got to do what I got to do, regardless of, who I'm going to hurt in the process.
Mhm.
And yeah, so if Michael would have taken 100K, 750 would have been my number.
Wow. Wow.
Yeah.
That's crazy. That's crazy. It's just crazy that you're even put in that position, in the first place, though. And after seeing some of your family members and you not being able to see your kids when you had that family reunion, right before
Yeah.
that, that's hard. That's hard. So I totally, I,
Yeah.
I understand you put your family first, and a lot of people on the internet do understand that as well.
Yeah, I've gotten a lot of support. And Ava, I had an interview with production just prior to family leaving. And, they asked me, how do you think you're doing? And how do you think what was your strategy getting to this point? And I said, I haven't had a strategy. I've just been honest. I've been genuine. I've been playing with integrity. And I had up until that point, despite what some people might say about my interaction with Dino on the trolley problem. That's different, different. But I played an honest game up until that point. And when I found out, literally 15 to 20 minutes prior to the game, the actual challenge starting, what was going on behind closed doors, that's when I had to just say, that's it. No more Mr. Nice Guy. That's it. I'm either going to go home the next round with just $100,000, or I'm going to go home the next round with $650,000. And I chose the latter.
Maybe for anybody who doesn't know what you mean by behind closed doors, do you wanna explain kind of what you mean by that?
Yeah, so I was in alliance with Patrick, Jeff, and Gage. They took me into their alliance, right? I didn't know that this alliance existed. I figured, hey, there's strength in numbers. Why not? And in the beginning, it was pretty cool because all we would do is strategize about games. Like, if this is going to happen or if that's going to happen, this is how we should play it, so on and so forth. It never got to the point up until later where it got a little ugly and it was about taking people out. And that's when I was like, I don't think this is the right fit for me anymore, right? Because I was very close to everybody. Without going into too much detail, there was a moment where we were sitting down and strategizing, and they had a target on Queen. And I was in a different place with Queen. I had a different relationship with Queen at that point. We had just finished the mental challenge together and we were rooting for each other. And I was like, I'm sorry, I disagree. If that's how you feel about Queen and those are your opinions, they're yours. I don't want anything to do with that. So I stood up for her. And I think that's when the alliance might have gotten some sort of inkling that, oh, maybe JC isn't really on our page. At least that's my assumption of it. But anyway, just prior to the challenge happening, Tawana pulls me over to the side, and it was really odd, the interaction. She said, she gives me these eyes, right? These Tawana eyes, and she's like, come follow me. So I start following her. And the first thing she does, which I found really strange, was she covered her microphone up. And she goes, cover your mic, JC. And I'm like, if Tawana tells you to do something, you do it. Tawana doesn't play. So I covered my mic and I was just like, what is she doing? And then she basically goes on to tell me that I'm trusting the wrong people. And she names them because I was confused. She's like, Patrick, Jeff, and Gage, they want you out. They're coming for you. And I don't believe a word she's saying because I'm like, this is impossible. Right. And I'm trying to gather more information from her. Another player starts walking in our direction and she just takes off. I guess she didn't want to be heard by anybody speaking about them. So that stayed in my mind the whole time I was in our cubes. And then I pieced it all together because I started thinking, is she lying to me? What does she gain by lying to me? She's got to be telling me the truth, but how does she know this? And then I had a flashback moment in there where earlier that afternoon, before the family even arrived, I had walked over to Patrick's dorm, if I can call it that, or bunker, whatever you want to call it. And I can hear people talking. from inside. They were so empty. It was just a bed and a few chairs, so everything echoes. I can hear people talking, so I knew they were in there. And for some odd reason, I decided to knock. Like something I had not ever done before. I decided to knock. It was just my instincts, my gut. And I knocked, and it went complete silent, like not a word. It felt really odd. And I knocked again. And the second time I knock, I hear some scattering, like just movement, chairs and everything. So I let myself in. And when I let myself in, I see Tawana running out the back door, just running out. And the first thing out of my mouth, I see the guy sitting there at the table. I said, "What was that about?" It just felt really weird that there was tension in the air. They were pale, like white as a ghost when they saw that it was me that walked into that dorm. And all of a sudden, their conversations didn't make any sense. Like everybody was talking over each other. And then Patrick decides, like, "Oh, I'm going to take lead on this conversation." He's like, "Oh, nothing. She just got spooked. Sit down. Let's just talk strategy." Just to kind of just break the ice there. But I knew something was wrong, and that was it. That was the moment when I sat in my cubicle. I was like, "What Tawana told me and what I experienced. That was the moment. That was the moment, and it made perfect sense to me." I was like, "She's not lying to me. And if they want me out, I'm not going to wait until they take me out and I go home with zero or 100K." I said, "I'm going home with a bag." And at that point, I knew I was going to hurt a lot of people after me, but I had to do what I had to do.
So do you think that
Right.
if that interaction didn't happen, you would still have taken more money in the challenge? Like,
No,
really?
absolutely not.
Mm.
Because I felt safe up till that point. I literally was like, how did I get so lucky that I'm with the best of the best? Like these other 9 players, they have my back. They support me. They're going to play fair. And we all had agreement that, if it gets to a point where we have to challenge each other, we're going to play hard, right? But we're not going to play dirty. That was the whole, understanding. So had that conversation not had happened, if Tawana would have never came up to me and told me that, I would have been none the wiser. I would have just taken my 100,000, despite what Michael would have done, because then I would have looked at that like, oh, that
Right.
was kind of shady. But I would have taken my 100,000 because that was the mentality of everybody. A fair share would be a tenth of a million. So yeah, I would have taken 100,000 because I wouldn't have had any reason to not take it at that point. My fair share, and I would have probably, hindsight's 2020. If I would have done that, I would have probably been voted in to top six. I feel that in my heart. I was well connected with everybody. I can't see why they wouldn't have voted me as one of their top six. But you can't predict the future. We don't know what the next game is going to be. And given the circumstances, having the knowledge that I had, it was now or never.
Wow, yeah, it's
Yeah.
just crazy how much of a little thing can affect the entire game. Like, not saying the conversation
Hmm.
was little or anything, but like, if that didn't happen, the entire rest of the show would have been so different, honestly. So
Yeah.
like,
Oh,
yeah,
absolutely.
it's crazy to think about.
And I should have known something was brewing because having spent so much time with, in particular, Patrick and Jeff. We were bunkmates in Panama. Having spent so much time with them, I should have known better. I should have had a little bit of a guard up because I saw how Patrick was playing the game. He would manipulate a lot of people into like, "Hey, I'm your friend, this and that," and like he planted a lot of seeds. So, in my opinion, I think he over strategized and it landed on the wrong ears this time. And Tawana wasn't having that. But I think, and again, this is my assumption, him being the strategist that he is, he probably told Gage, "Hey, top three is going to be me, you, and Jeff." He probably told Tawana, "Hey, top three is going to be me, you, and Jeff if we have any control over it." So I think he started like telling people what they wanted to hear. Again, until it got to the wrong ears where they were like, "Whoa, hold on a second, you're misleading people." So I think it backfired. I
Yeah,
think it
I wonder.
backfired.
So that's something that I want to touch on with Patrick and stuff because I do remember when episode 8 dropped, right? We had Patrick engage on the podcast, I believe, sometime after. I think it was after episode 9 dropped, maybe. But I remember Patrick sticking up for you and essentially not saying he supported your decision, but saying he understood where
Yeah.
you were coming from with, picking your family over everyone else in the game, which is totally fair. And so that's why
Yeah.
when the reunion came around, right? I JC, when you started going off on stage, I was like, I was not expecting that at all. So I kind of want to address that with you. Where was that kind of change from like, Patrick essentially talking nice and then going to the reunion and seeing that reaction from you? Because I didn't expect it.
Yeah, I think it stemmed from hearing and seeing what is going on other people's pods, right? And their perception of and them telling their story. And I wanted the truth to be out there. Like, let's not sugarcoat stuff. This is how it went down. I respect that you understand and agree now why I made the decision I made, but stand on business and be truthful and come clean and say, we did try to get him out. We strategized against him and it backfired. That's what I wanted to hear. And to this day, I haven't received that. I've had a lot of conversations with Patrick. We've spoken on the phone. Until this day, he will adamantly say, Tawana misunderstood. Basically, he's saying she's lying to me. That's not what went down. And ironically, uh, it's a case of BGAs. These games amnesia, right? You forget all of the little important details, but you remember everything else. And what's disappointing for me is that Jeff has the memory of an elephant. I mean, you spit out a player number and he knows exactly who that player number belongs to. Like he is sharp. He's got a good memory. Jeff was there, and to this day, he also does not remember what went down. I think he's just trying to protect Patrick because they're very close, and I get that. But come clean. Tell me the truth. I'm a big boy. I can handle it. Just tell me, hey, JC, you know what? I'm sorry. It was gameplay. If there's going to be only top three, these would have been my top three. I love you to death. But I have more appreciation or more respect for these guys, or these are the team. This is who I wanted to be in top three. I would have 100% respect for that and say, okay, because then you have to cut down, right? But the fact that he's standing on, oh, Tawana misunderstood, I don't buy it.
Hmm.
I don't buy it.
It also sucks because essentially this is like a kind of a situation that will never really be resolved because the longer we go
Right.
on from when it happened, the less people are going to remember, right? So, and then it's hard because everyone has a different perception of their own game, right? And what even happened in the game. And we can't talk on
Yeah.
it either because we weren't there. So it's
Yeah.
just like, I don't really know where to go in that situation. But
Right.
I remember Patrick saying a lot of stuff was cut off in the Magenta house. Is there anything that you remember
Mm.
him saying that, I don't know, wasn't included that maybe should have been?
Well, I was hoping in the reunion that Tawana would have stepped up again because in the Magenta house, we were in there for a while.
Yeah.
And I think I went at it for like maybe 10 to 12 minutes, if memory serves me, where I was just calling out a bunch of stuff. And in the Magenta room, I remember saying, I'm not going to throw Tawana under the bus because I didn't want to do that to her. It was awesome that she came forward and told me something that I needed to know, but I didn't want to include her in the mix. So I remember saying something along the lines of, someone told me something and I trust that person. And they told me that you and you and you were coming after me and you wanted me out and I forgot exactly what happened, but I never said who it was. And immediately Patrick, Jeff, and Gage are like, oh no, they have this face like, I don't know what you're talking about, JC. You're making this up. And no, that never happened. They just seemed all dazed and confused. And then Tawana stepped up. Tawana stepped up and said, it was me. You told me. And something along the lines of, look me in the eye and tell me that you didn't say that. She called them out. Patrick looked like he wanted to throw up in that moment. He was just like, oh shit. He didn't expect that. And maybe because he thought he was now building an alliance with Tawana. That's my thought that, hey, Tawana won't do this. We're going to include her in this alliance and we're going to put her in the top three and so on and so forth. Not that they had a choice, but strategy wise, right? So I think he was taken back by her and she called them out. She called them out and none of them fessed up to it. And, going back to what you said, Ava, that we'll never know. When we will find out? When the footage is revealed, because there's footage of it. In that room, there was an overhead camera right over the bed, and there was a camera to the left of the bed that captured everything.
And do you think
I
that'll
would love
ever
for that
come out
footage.
though?
Oh man, I pray that it does for two reasons. I want validation and I want closure. I want to know the truth. It is what it is at this point, right? And maybe I should be thanking Patrick because if he didn't do that and set, things in motion, I wouldn't have $650,000. Who knows
Right.
if I would have, or maybe I should be mad. Maybe he took away my opportunity from winning the grand prize. Maybe I would have won the whole thing. Who knows, right? But yeah, that's the only way we're gonna find out the truth when the footage comes through, or when Tawana decides to do a pod and give us the nitty gritty and share everything, all the details.
Yeah, I always forget, Tawana
Yeah.
hasn't really spoken out much on
She
social media at
hasn't.
all about really anything. And that's why, before we found out who won and stuff, we were still unsure, between Jeff and Tawana, like our guesses, we kept going back and forth. Is the winner gonna not post on social media at all, like Tawana, or is the winner gonna post
Yeah,
like Jeff and share
Yeah.
his story? So that was a big thing too. But yeah, Tawana has been pretty quiet on her end. I
she
know.
has. You know what's funny, Ava? Do you guys remember when we went to the first screening before it actually released publicly? We got to see it ahead of time, the first two
Oh
episodes.
yeah, yeah.
Were you guys
Oh, yeah.
there?
Mhm.
Yeah.
Yeah. So by that point, everything had already ended, right? The winner was already known, but we didn't know who the winner was. And Jeff was in the first screening, and I was in the first screening. And at the end of the first screening, as we're all getting ready to leave, Tawana shows up, but she shows up late, right? A lot of the people were already sitting down and all that. And the minute I saw Tawana, I mean, I lit up. I was like, "T," and I'm hugging her and I'm like embracing her and oh my God, how are you? I don't know anything about anything because I wanted to experience it as a viewer. But I remember in that moment, I called Jeff over. I was like, Jeff, come here. T's here. She made it. And all of a sudden, the air got thick.
No.
Mhm.
And it was a cordial hello. And from that moment, I was like, this is my top two.
Right.
I said,
Right.
this is my top two. And I said, something went down. And I was like, I can't wait to see it. But I knew at that moment, something went down between the two of them. And that's when I kind of pieced it all together. And I was like, it's head to head on them.
Mhm.
And someone did
Wow.
someone dirty. That's what I thought, at least at that point.
Mhm. Yeah. That's
Right.
what yeah, me and Ivy were worried because, eventually we realized Twy and Jeff are likely top 2. You can tell by their edits. They have been in the show since
Yeah.
episode 1.
Yeah.
I'm glad you brought that up because I completely forgot about that, like, premiere, and, like, in my brain, I was convinced at that point Tawana was the winner, and so her coming in late and everything, I was like, "Oh, well, it's because she's the winner, she doesn't wanna talk about everything too much," and then versus Jeff, he was, like, at the first screening with all of us, and he was
Chit
sitting, like,
chatting.
directly yeah, he was, like, sitting directly behind me, I was, like, talking to him, like, no clue in the world at that point that he was the winner, let alone 2nd place at that point, or it could have been 2nd place at that point. I was like, I don't know, it was just so funny, like, the 2 ways they handled it,
Right.
so different, and left me just automatically assuming
And
Tawana was the
you're right,
winner.
Ivy. You're spot on because Tawana went ghost on social media. I mean,
Yeah.
she avoided everyone. I have her personal contact information, and I text her after the show. Hey, hope life is going good, so on and so forth. Never heard back. I mean, she literally just kind of ghosted everybody, and maybe she just needed that time
Mhm.
to
Right.
recover from what we just went through. But yeah, the fact that she wasn't responding to anyone, wasn't present in social media, I was like, "That's our winner right there." Winner,
Mhm.
winner, chicken dinner. That's what I thought, and yeah,
Yeah.
I was surprised.
It was really sad to see how upset and how like it really impacted her at the reunion as soon as she had to start
Yeah.
talking about it, and that's probably why she kept quiet because it's still upsetting to her. She was that close to $10 million,
Yeah,
and the fact that Jeff
Yeah.
got it on the first case, I'm sure makes it so much worse for her. And I know she's probably so happy for Jeff winning, but that is
of
a
course,
tough
yeah,
loss, especially after turning down $1 million.
Mhm.
Turning down $1 million
three
again.
times.
Yeah, like it's
Yeah, 3
crazy.
3
times.
times.
It's
When I was in the, in my bunker, or, again, dorm bunker, whatever you wanna call it, when I was in there, I got interviewed by the guys, and they're like, "So what do you think the outcome is gonna be by the time it gets to your door?" Right? I said, "Probably 0 left," and they're like, "Why? Why do you think that?" I said, "Because I think Tawana is going to take the full million," and I said, "I think she should." And they're like, "So you'd be okay with her taking the million?" I was like, "Yeah. She turned it down once already. Come on. How many more times are you going to have that opportunity?" And they're like, "All right." And they play devil's advocate. And they're like, "So what if she doesn't take the 1 million?" I said, "I hope she at least takes half." because she deserved it, you
Right.
know?
Yeah.
And I wouldn't have been upset with that.
Yeah.
But it just didn't turn out that way. So, she played with a lot of integrity. No one can doubt that. But I'm sure there's some glimmer of like regret of like, damn, because she wouldn't have been sending anybody home the second time.
Right.
Right. Also, the fact that you and Emma, and I don't know who else, but she was our captain, like
Yeah.
all of our captains. So, like, if I had been in your place, I would think the same thing. I'm like, she should take it. Like, she didn't
Yeah.
eliminate me. I can't even be upset about that.
I think part of the equation is that nobody knew what the next game was going to be, right? Like,
Mhm.
if we knew that that was going to be buying power or that that was going to be money that you have control over the game, she could have easily taken the million and then given everybody 100,000 and say, "Hey, let's all play for it," right?" She would have been in control with that. She would have been the first seat in for doing that. But nobody knows what's going to happen. Nobody knows what's going to happen next. And then the third time she's offered the million, like, gosh, her name was in that.
The envelope.
It was, yeah, people wanted her out. And that just dropped my jaw. I was like, what?
Yeah.
I thought she was very well liked. I thought she was very well respected. Obviously, I was wrong, right? Some people just didn't want her to go through and win the thing, but I was very, very surprised, and I'm sure that she felt that as well. We had a screening prior to it being released publicly, just top 10. They had a special screening for us at the Amazon building, and I remember seeing that. And when they pulled her name out, obviously she already knew the results of that. But I looked over, she was sitting to my left. I looked over and you can still see the hurt in her face, like the disappointment, you know?
Yeah.
Right.
It was shocking to me.
That's the thing with that, because I was shocked too. I really didn't think she was. So, for the viewers that don't know, what they had us do is rank all the people that were left in the game, and they did top 50, right? So, when I got
Yep.
out, there was still Chance was still left, and then all the people that made it through were still left. So, it's not
Yeah.
like people were only ranking Jeff, Gage, and Tawana, right? They were being ranked out of
Yeah.
all of these other people. So that's what I want to
Yeah.
clarify about that. So it's not like everyone was like, yeah, Tawana's, we want her out. We don't want her to win. Like, it was not that
Yep.
way for the players. So that just sucks that her name was in there, because if I'm going to be honest, I would have thought it would have been Gage, just because he was so quiet in the game that,
Yes.
yeah, like,
That's
not
what
a
I
lot of
thought.
people talked to him. So I really thought it was going to be Gage. And so I was like, he made the right decision. He took the $1 million because his name's
I
in the
agree 1,000%. Out of all the top 10 that was there, Gage was like the quietest one, the one that people like least knew about. And I felt the same thing. When he decided to press the button, I was like, he made the right decision because his name is in there. And I was shocked. Let me ask you, because I don't know what that survey looked like. So it was just rank the top 10 and had the names of top 10 plus everybody so how did that work out?
For us, physical already went. So the physical people that won were in there. Trivia people that made it through were in there, because I was the second to last for trivia. So those people were in there.
Yeah.
And then all of Chance was in there. So that's a whole extra 20 people, right?
Yeah. Because
So,
you don't know
yeah.
who the top 10 are going to be at that point.
Exactly. So yeah, it was before
Mhm.
the trolley problem. So it was still essentially a lot of people, and there was just pictures of everyone, and they had us put
Yeah.
it, like, line it up on who we wanted to win most to least. And
So I have a question for you guys. If you remember, who'd you rank the most?
I'm almost
Okay.
positive at that point I either put Maddie or Emma, because Maddie wasn't out at that point.
Yeah. Oh,
So
Maddie's
yeah.
awesome.
And I knew Emma was up there for sure, but so was Patrick. I know Jeff was up there as well, so I know they were pretty high up there. But Gage, I
Somewhere
don't
within your
know
top
where.
5, right?
Yeah, right. But I don't know where Gage fell in my ranking. I can't remember. And also,
Yeah.
it was like 2 a.m. I was about to get shuttled to the hotel, and they were like, "Wait, we need you to do this real quick." And I was like, "Oh, okay, whatever." And so I just think I'm not thinking anything of it. I'm just like, "Okay,
Yeah.
I'll just do it." And then they're like,
No,
"Wait,
literally.
we need to get your picture for evidence." And I was like, "For evidence?
Oh my
What
God.
does that mean?"
Yeah. It was
So,
intense.
yeah.
It was scary. JC, I had you and Emma as my top 2, and
Aw.
then I had, I think, Corn and Akira are the only other people I remember putting up there, and then I
Yeah.
think a lot of them I just started throwing them up there, like,
Just
wherever they
yeah.
went. 'Cause, I mean, we didn't know how at first, I thought it was kind of like they're having us draft it just, like, for fun, like, "Oh, this
Same.
person guessed the
They
winner,"
didn't tell
like,
you how
whatever.
that was gonna play in the game, right?
They didn't say it
No,
was
we
Wow,
didn't
gonna
know if
be
it was
in the
gonna come in
game.
at all.
Yeah.
Yeah.
that's
Yeah.
crazy.
Yeah, when they showed that at the reunion, because me and Ava have been talking about this for months, like, I wonder if that played into anything, like, we just had no clue, and
Yeah.
so, when we were all watching that screening, and then he said, "We secretly surveyed the top 50," I, like, stood up out of my chair, I was like, "No way!"
I
I was
did
like,
the
"We
same
actually,
thing.
like" yeah, it was so good, like, we actually got to participate in the last episode in some
Yeah.
way, which was kinda awesome.
I had that same reaction. I was like, "What?" Like,
Yeah.
because you guys now have a certain amount of control
Right.
over what the
Right.
outcome of someone's path is gonna be. Yeah, and I was just like, "Wow, that's clever that they're thinking already in advance of like, hey, this is gonna possibly happen." So I loved it. I loved it.
And then
Yeah.
all of our pictures in the finale, I'm like, yeah, I made it in the
Mhm.
episode. No big deal,
Yeah, I have
guys.
a cameo. Got a cameo in there. Wait, I wanna ask, so going into the reunion, were you, like, nervous, or what expectations did you really have going into it, knowing you're gonna see everybody again?
Yeah. So we got there a day before we did a rehearsal. So yeah, I was nervous because I knew that I was going to be on the attack. I didn't expect it to
Right.
happen that quick. Like I got caught off guard. It was like before any introductions, it was just like, and you're greedy, and I was like, oh shit, okay.
Mm.
I feel like I
So
low-key
let
kind
me
of blame that on John. I feel like one of his first questions was like, "Okay, JC, so why'd you do that?" I was
right.
like,
Yeah, that
"Yo."
was that was that was tough.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I was taken back, but yeah, I was nervous. I'm not gonna lie. I was ready to defend myself no matter what, but I was nervous. And prior to the rehearsal, everybody received me really well. Emma and Patrick and Jeff and everybody embraced me and received me, and we talked. And hey, I don't blame you, JC. You did the right thing. Looking back, right? But
Mhm.
then came Queen, and Queen was sitting at a table with I think her mother and somebody else and a few other players that were trickling in. And that was the first time I saw Queen, right? So I figured she was going to embrace me just like everybody else. And I went to go up to her, and immediately she's like, nope, I'm not hugging you. And I was like, oh, okay. And, she did that in front of my kids, which was kind of off putting, but it's in typical Queen fashion. So I was like, okay, I get it. I get it. I said, whenever you're ready, you're ready. And I walked away, went about my business. And then later in the afternoon, I went up to her and I was like, hey, can we have a one-on-one? Can we just talk a little bit? And we spoke, and I understood where she was coming from and stuff. But she warned me ahead of time. She's like, despite what we just talked about, just know that I'm coming for you and I'm coming for Tawana. And I was like, I understand me, but why Tawana? And she went off and she basically told me that there's some bad blood between them, but that never came up in the reunion. So Tawana kind of escaped that one, and all the targets were on me.
Yeah,
But yeah,
that's
I was nervous going in.
interesting. I
Mhm.
didn't really know too much about Queen Twana. As far as I knew, I thought they're pretty much good friends. So that's interesting to
Yeah,
Right.
hear.
apparently, and because I don't remember too many of the details of what she was telling me, but something went down in their cubes because she was in the cube with Tawana. Something about how the cube challenge went. It
Mm.
created a rift between the two of them.
Hmm.
So, which I look back and I'm like, wow, it makes me wonder if that's why Tawana picked Queen to go on the tracks, right?
Right.
Because there was a lot of twists and a lot of changes going on, and things. Every game was very different. She had to pick two people. What if the twist would have been like, and the two people you just chose are both being eliminated, or whatever?
Right.
There's a reason why she put her on the tracks, and I don't think it was a good reason. There's a reason why Tawana didn't pick Queen to receive the first key. If you remember, Tawana says something about, I'm going to do what's right and what's honest. And she didn't pick Queen for the first key. So there was some bad blood there already. When you piece it back together, when you look back at all the little details, it's like, oh my God, this is like a freaking movie.
Yeah, it's like surprising that that wasn't really essentially highlighted in the show either. Like as far as
Yeah.
the show knew, they seemed like they were friends. So because they
Yeah,
were, yeah, they went through the cube together. So that
I
was
thought the
cool.
same.
Dang.
So, talking about the reunion and, as it was going on, did everything go the way you kind of expected it to go? I know you already said you were expecting to, get that backlash and be in the spotlight, but did you say everything you wanted to say there?
I think I defended my position pretty well. I thought it was going to be a little different, to be honest. John is an awesome interviewer. I've watched a lot of his content, but I think the scale of this interview was new to him because I felt like he gave more control to us versus him narrating the decision making or how we're going to ask us questions. That's what I felt because I thought it was going to be more of like, hey, so let's talk about JC player 566, and asking me targeted questions versus letting other players kind of pick and choose what they want to talk about. So I thought it was going to be more structured in that way. But I mean, it was good. It was awesome. You know, you didn't hear from so many people, so that's the only thing that was a little upsetting for me. Like, get JC's perception of it, right, and then maybe use what I just said or what I alluded to, and then ask other people. So, do you agree with JC's decision? Would you have done something different in the situation where I spoke about what led to my decision making? Right, that's a prime example. Throw it back at Tawana. So, hey, Tawana, you were in that room, apparently, according to what JC just said. What do you remember? I would have liked to have seen that.
Yeah.
I would have liked to have seen more, interaction between the stories that are being told.
Yeah, I agree with that. I agree with that for sure. I think, another like piece of that was we got delayed for several hours. I remember,
Yeah.
dude, we had to wait so long, and then we were
Oh
filming
my
till what,
goodness.
like 1 a.m.
What? Yeah, one.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I got home so late that night. I had to take my kids to school the next morning. They slept like 6
Oh my
hours. I
goodness.
was like, "Oh, I know, bad for her."
Oh,
I'll tell you
so
what my
bad.
favorite part of the reunion was, just being able to see all of you guys, right? And not just top 10, like because top 60 is special. I mean, we all just meshed and we got along and we had such great memories that we made. So top 60 to me is really, really special. So the fact that we were able to get all together under one space, at least most of us, that was my highlight of the reunion. Just being
yeah.
able to spend some time with you guys.
For sure. I'm
Absolutely.
pretty sure it was only
Absolutely.
2 people out of top 60 that couldn't make it, which is actually crazy when you think
Mhm.
about it. Because everyone has
Right?
their own
Yeah.
lives now. We're all living our own lives. We really never knew when we would
Yeah.
ever see each other again. So we were lucky
Yeah,
to
life
even
goes
have the
on.
reunion.
Right.
And it was John's
Agree.
idea, so shout out John.
Right?
Not Jimmy's
Yeah,
idea.
for real.
So that was awesome.
So you got a lot of screen time in Beast Game. So what has life been like since the show has ended? Has everything turned on its head, or how is life now?
Oof. So I expected some backlash, right? Because not everybody's going to agree with my decision, but I didn't expect as much backlash. Like the hate is real, y'all.
Mhm.
Like people are really taking this to a whole different level. I get every single day multiple messages on all of my social platform about how they want me to die, how they want my kids to die, how they want my husband to get cancer, how they like looping in my kids and my husband is
Absurd.
tremendous. I mean, they had till this day they still have a psychologist on hand for me.
Really?
So
Wow.
I've got a direct contact with the psychologist that I can call at any given time. I've got very thick skin. I don't give it any energy, so I didn't need to use those resources, but that was awesome that they extended that. But going back to what I said, it's like take it out on me. Be mad at me. Don't involve my family into the mix, right? They have nothing to do with my decision making. But yeah, people took it to the extreme. I mean, I received death threats.
It's
Like
crazy.
it's a game, it's like, but
Mhm.
there's a lot of cuckoos out there as well. So you have to take these things serious.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's just nuts. I don't respond to that.
That's
I don't clap back. I don't respond. Every so often on my socials, I'll be a little funny and some people will say something like, I hate you so much. And I'll respond with like, well, tell me how you really feel. I'll make it funny. I'll keep it light, but I don't respond back in a negative way because it's just adding fuel to the fire. And everybody's split. I have
Right.
just as many supporters as I do haters. And I said it on the reunion, and I'll say it again. I'm never going to choose friends over my family. That's the bottom line. I've got 2 little guys that I have to support and I have to raise. They're my priority in life. And as much as friends are awesome and cool, I can't. I'd be beside myself if I ever choose friends over family. Imagine me coming home to my husband and saying, "Hey, so I had an opportunity of taking home $677,000, but I decided to just take $100,000 because I wanted my friends to have some money too." I'd be divorced in a heartbeat, you know?
The things with the internet trolls and so many people, they will say whatever when it's on the internet, but as soon as they come face to face to you, they're not saying a single thing. So it's
Right.
like,
Yeah.
and people are so bored with their lives, literally all they have to do is go hate on people, go hate on Mr. Beast, go
Yeah.
hate
Right.
on you, literally anyone
Right.
they can find they will hate on. So It's
They're
always
keyboard
like,
warriors.
oh, for sure, yeah. And
Yeah.
Oh
especially
my God.
Reddit, crazy.
Oh, Reddit
Ugh.
is next level. Yeah, that's just like hardcore. I remember in the beginning, I was looking at Reddit and my name was just blowing up right after that episode. Like, I broke the internet for like 2 days.
Mm.
That's all I
Right.
kept seeing. I was scrolling through TikToks and it was just my face and stories about me. And I was like, whoa. Like I never expected that. But yeah, Reddit is just a whole beast on its own. I
Yeah.
stopped looking at those because it's just, as much as you want to say I'm bigger than that and it's not going to affect me, sometimes you read it and sometimes you're like, oh, and it gets you down, but I don't give it any energy.
I was gonna add on to that, and JC, I know me and you have talked about this before, and I feel like everybody who views the show, you have your opinions, you have what would I do, what in that situation, but nobody will ever know what they would truly do unless you're in their shoes. Like nobody can say what they would have really done unless they were directly in your shoes, you know? Like they can
100%.
say whatever they want, but they'll never truly know. So yeah,
Absolutely,
it's hard.
100%. Like, look at Michael, right? He made the decision to take more than his fair share, and I keep doing air quotes because it was never agreed upon, but he looked at that as opportunity to get back on his feet. He was living out of someone's house as a roommate. He's like, "Hey, this is my chance to finally have a little bit of independence and a little bit of freedom," and he took it. And I don't blame him for that. But one of the things, and I just remember what I was thinking before. One of the things that drives me crazy is the assumptions that our people are making. Like, oh, this guy is in so much debt, so he doesn't know how to manage money. He gambles his money away. He does this. He's that. He's a bad father. They bought kids on the black market. I'm like, what? Like, it's
Yeah.
crazy how people orchestrate these ideas without even knowing me.
Yeah.
One of the biggest things was like, well, he said that he was $530,000 in debt, but he takes 650. There's something called taxes, people, and I accounted for that when I was up there because I had to, I had to think about taxes. But yeah, it's crazy. The majority of the people don't really understand where my debt came from, and they don't really need to know. But just to give you an idea, IVF and surrogacy, our kids were born using IVF and surrogacy, and it is expensive. Just to start a family, we cashed out our 401ks. We went through all of our savings. We took out loans just to start a family. That was the bulk of my debt. Again, I don't need to justify that to people, but just the mindset of people thinking, oh, this person doesn't know how to manage money. They're going to be in debt again after they pay off all these bills. That's what they want to think. That's what they want to think. They don't know me.
Mhm.
Right. The internet is a
It
crazy,
is.
crazy place.
And I don't regret my decision, and I don't say this to sound pompous, but it's so refreshing receiving that last statement from a loan or from a credit card or from my medical providers that I have a zero balance.
Mm.
It is so refreshing. It's like weight off of my shoulders. It's like I feel like I can breathe again for the first time. It's a reset on life, and that's what I wanted. That was my intention to get on the game, to win enough to start over, and I did just that. So
Right.
I don't regret my decision. The only thing that hurts me till this day is that I know I disappointed and I let down a lot of other people that were just as deserving, and I get that. But at the end of the day, it was a competition show, and I had to put my family first.
Well, JC, this has been very informative. You're really awesome to talk
Yeah.
to. Obviously the final question is, are you gonna apply to season 2 and would you want to go back?
Oh my God. So I already applied because I said, why not? Right. I don't know if they would bring me back because of the amount of money that I won.
Right.
Right.
Mhm.
But I figured let's give it a shot. Right. So I submitted my
Yeah.
application. I think if I am selected, though, I've got to work like 10 times harder than everybody
Oh
else.
yeah.
Right. Because
Yeah, definitely.
nobody's going to trust me. And I don't blame them. They're going to be like, yeah, we're not making JC captain. We're not giving JC that opportunity of handling any money. It's like, I have to work that much harder to build trust, and I have to bump up my social game because again, I'm already going in as public enemy number one. So it would be very, very hard unless it's skill based games. Then I've got this because then I will account for myself, right?
Mm.
I determine my own path and my own future. But if it's vote offs, I'm out.
Yeah. Yeah.
I'm out the minute they say start the timer.
Yeah,
JC.
literally.
I'm gonna have a big target on my back, but it would be fun. It would be fun to be recasted. That would be great.
I don't know. Yeah,
That'd
maybe
be
we'll see you
awesome.
in like a future Mr. Beast video if you don't go back for season 2
Mhm.
because you're. I mean, there's just no shot you make it through. Everyone knows your face. You would definitely be
Yep.
target #1. So
It'd be awesome if he does kind of like a villains edition, right? Because I'm known as the villain.
right.
So that would
Yeah,
be awesome if he did a
that was
villains
twisted.
edition. Yeah, he just recently did the Circles game, and there was a lot of Beast Games faces on there. But yeah, it'd be awesome to be on one of his videos. For you guys as well, it'd be awesome if
Oh,
they
yeah.
bring us all back.
Yeah, we'll
That'd be
see.
so fun.
Hopefully one day. That's our hope.
One day.
So
So can I
hey,
ask you guys a question?
Yeah.
So have you guys applied for season 2?
yeah, I have.
Yeah.
Yep.
Same.
So, if you're brought on to season 2, what is your gameplay going to be? How are you switching things up?
Ooh.
Will you be just taking money when the opportunity comes up, or will you be riding it out as long as you can?
You can go first, Ivy.
Okay, it was tough not leaving with anything, but knowing myself, I just want to stay in as long as I can and have like the adventure. Because I know if I took any bribe and like left, my brain would be thinking like, but what if I kept going? Like, what if I
What am I
kept
missing
going?
out
Like,
on?
would I
Yeah.
win? Yeah, what am I missing? And would I have won? Like, I don't know. So I think I'm gonna like, if I make it, I'm gonna stick out the whole time, which maybe I'll regret later, but that's the
But the
plan right
experience
now.
of it was awesome. Yeah.
Right.
What about
Mhm.
you, Ava?
Here's the thing, JC. I go back and forth. I definitely wouldn't take a bribe on episode 1. I would want to see where we go to next, but
Yeah.
hopefully no one of casting is watching this, but maybe later in the game I would take a bribe. But I just wouldn't
Who knows?
I don't know. I wouldn't take a bribe if it eliminated other people. But I would possibly take a bribe if it was just for myself and it was like self-eliminating me. So,
Yeah.
we'll see.
I
But
agree with you on that, Ava, because that was my mindset also. I said I'm not going to take money or take a bribe if I have to send people home because I just didn't want to have that guilt in front of me. When I made my decision, everybody still played. I never took the opportunity away from anybody to compete for the grand prize.
right.
They still had a fair shot into that grand prize. It played against me, unfortunately, and that kind of was my demise, but it's okay.
Yeah,
It's okay.
so I don't know, we'll see. And it's also like with me and Ivy, I didn't really have any lines at all in the show. Ivy had basically one big line. So
Yeah.
it's like I don't think people would really recognize us if we were to go back in season 2
Mhm.
unless
Yeah, I think
like
you'd be
we
able to
planned
like
it out.
slide
Yeah.
under.
Right,
Yeah,
Yeah,
exactly.
you'd
we
be
could go
able to
under the
slide under the
radar.
It's
radar.
like
I'll tell you one thing though. I think what would be awesome strategy going into season 2, if you guys are brought in, is make an alliance with every single season 1 player and make
Yeah.
it about season 1 against season 2
with the
without the newbies
newbies.
knowing.
Mm,
Yep.
Mhm.
Get all the newbies out, and then you guarantee a win for the OGs, right?
right.
That would be
Right.
awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then once it's only just season 1, then it's fair play, and then everybody's because it's gonna get cutthroat. It's gonna
Oh
be
Oh,
yeah.
yeah.
bad.
Oh.
Yeah. I think season 2 is going to be a lot different. And that's why I wonder how many season 1 people they're thinking of bringing back because that changes the dynamics a lot, because when we went
Yeah,
into
yeah.
season 1, everyone was even playing field. No one had like more knowledge than anyone else. But if season 1
Nope.
people come back for season 2, that immediately creates a divide. So I don't know. It'll be
Oh,
interesting to
Right.
heck
see.
yeah.
Oh,
And I
it'll be
think
so
and I think
exciting.
season 2 is gonna be really brutal. Not to take any credit, but because of players like me, because of players like the Habibi brothers, because of players like Connor, because of players like Daphne, like they're gonna look at us and be like, all right, I get it. This is what needs to be done. And I think they're
Yeah.
not gonna be so into the relationship aspect of it. It's just gonna be about like, what can I get now? What can I take home? Yeah, it's gonna be brutal.
Mhm.
It's gonna be brutal, which is gonna make good TV,
Yeah.
It's going to be awesome.
And wait,
right?
JC, is it true that you have a Feastables bar? I saw your TikTok about that. What?
So that was pure satire. I cannot believe
Oh.
the amount of people that bought into that. So
Oh, man.
yeah, I figured at that point I'm gonna give my haters something to hate me more about because I was just getting
Yeah.
so much backlash. I was like, okay, here you go. You want to really hate me? Hate me now, right? Yeah, it was pure satire. 650,000 bars is what we're gonna have to sell. It's going to be sweet and salty, kind of like my character. I was nice in the beginning, and at the end, everybody. It was just all satire, and I cannot believe that people actually bought into that. Ironically, people actually supported the idea. They were like, "Yeah, I would buy that bar in a heartbeat. When can I get it?
Oh
When
my
is it being
gosh.
released?" Which is making me think that maybe I need to reach out to Mike or maybe to the CEO of Feastables and be like, hello, can we do something
Yeah.
here?" Which actually wouldn't have been a bad idea for them to just do top 10, a
Right.
Feastable bar for top 10 would have been an awesome thing, right? Support your favorite player. But yeah, it was just pure satire. It's a hoax.
Wait,
I
that's
can't
so
believe I
Truth
funny.
came
comes
off
out.
credible in that.
The truth comes out.
I know, right?
All right, everyone, thank you so much for watching and listening to us talk through JC's gameplay of Beast Games. We really hope you enjoyed. Make sure to like this video, comment down below who you want to see next on the podcast, and subscribe to our channel. We will see you guys soon. Everyone say bye.
Bye.
Bye.